Hello, a very good evening to everyone. I can see there's lots of people who have come and joined today. That's very good. So we need some more people to join, but we'll not wait for them. Anyway, I've started recording too, and uh, very good evening. Yeah. So we wanted to share the videos actually, but then again there were a few hiccups because the 1 hour video what we do will be too much of data what it is consuming and is not allowing me to upload. So what I thought is we can do a steps, we can create a steps. I can do another video of that, and then I'll zip it and then I'll send you today. By the end of the evening, guys, I'll promise you to send everything what we have done it from the day one. Yesterday I have done a video, but it is too much in a data. So again still I'm recording it today. Let's see, I can zip it and send it to the today evening to your groups. I'll do that. Alright, and alright, so good, we'll start it now. You want me to start actually from where we had left, right? So a few things to make you more understand about what we are doing. As I told you, we have done first EPS, then we created calendars, then we created projects, then we created calendars, we have assigned the calendars to the project, then we started breaking down the scope of the project, that we got WBS, and then further breakdown of the WBS what we created yesterday was called as activities. So so and so forth, that there will be more than 3000 4000 activities in a very small to small projects. There will be more than 4000 5000 6000 activities in a small construction projects. But when you get into real estate or infrastructure constructions and all bigger projects where you have more than 10,000 activities and all, so what happens actually, phase by phase the activities will be same, or the work remains same, right? So activities also have to be same. So what you can do is you just have to copy and paste it rather than creating it again and again by clicking add. It will take a lot of time. So what you can do, you can just click on something, right click and say copy. You can see there's an option called as copy, or you can select all. How do we do that? Control A makes everything get selected, or you can just press control and select the activities which you want to copy and then right click and say copy. So you can do it the way you want it, but it saves a lot of time actually, because there are a lot of activities which are pretty same, isn't it? For example, this column works, the structural work, or this column work is, or this whole structural work itself is the same for every floor. You'll have to of course, yes, the quantity of work is different. I will come to that point later. Anyway, but listing what we are doing here, we are just listing out the work which have to be accomplished later, which have to be executed tomorrow. So the activities which have to be executed, you are just listing down it. We are just planning it, right? So we are into a planning stage, and we are just understanding that what all the works have to happen. So lot of works will be same. So what you will have to do, you just have to control, select the number of activities which you want to copy and paste, and then right click copy, and wherever you want to paste it. For example, say that I want to copy this whole structural work. You can see this, I am just selecting that structural work, right click, I'll say copy, simple, and I want to paste it into this first floor. So you can see here I'm selecting this first floor, and then the moment I click on right click, and you can see there's no paste, of course, I'll open it because I've created the whole. Just a second. Yeah, in fact I should do that in a WBS first. Where is WBS? I think we have done this, no? We have done it in WBS, copying and pasting it. Yes,
sir, we are not seeing the screens.
You're not able to see the screen?
Yes.
Oh, is it? And nobody told me till now. Okay, you are able to see it now?
Yes, sir. Now it is.
Okay, right. I'll Okay, don't worry, I'll do it again. See, you understood, right? What basically I was trying to explain. So, as you can see, this column works, and I want this column work to be there in my first floor, second floor, third floor, everywhere. For that, what I need is WBS first, right? So, for example, you can see this column works, right? I'll right click on this. You can see where I am into WBS page. I am copying my WBS. I'll right click, I'll say copy, I'll click on first floor. You can see this FF, it is first floor. I'll right click and I'll say paste. It is asking me what all the things have to be pasted. You can see there is something called as activities in this, right? That means it is asking, do you want to copy that particular activities which is present in the column works WBS. I'll say yes, because I want everything to be copied, right? So the moment I say okay, then you can see that when I go to this activity page, you can see that in the first floor I automatically got this column works, and I've got the activities also, which I haven't created. I just have created here in the in the ground floor, and I've just created 3 activities here, but I just copied it and I pasted it as much as you want. It could, this again, if you want this to be in your second floor, what you will do, same thing. I'll go to WBS, I'll click on this second floor, right click, I'll say paste, and what all the things, again it will ask you select. If you do not want anything to be copied, you can uncheck that. You understood? Anything which you do not want to copy, you just have to uncheck it, but usually we want everything to be copied. If I'm copying it, then you can see that again you can see the activities have been created in my second floor also. So simple, no? You just have to make one particular thing or one particular WBS with all its activities. Usually it is known as a template. You just have to copy it and paste it as much as you want. Now with respect to the quantities, when the duration changes, of course, yes, based upon that we'll have to change the duration, start date and all that. I'll teach you that later. Listing down the activities is very important. As and when you start listing these activities, you will have to copy it and paste. You will have to copy it and paste it. That becomes easier. Or if you still wish to create it individually, you can. I'm just giving you an easiest way to do it, but if you want to create all these activities manually, you can do. Of course, you know how to create activities, right? So that is how the activities can be created, and it becomes easier when you do a copy paste of it. Alright, so when you select these activities, there are a lot of things to know in this. There's something called as activity ID here. Now there is a question which because you must have it, but you are not asking because of this online classes here. You can see this all activities are starting from A, and it is 1000, then 1010, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Why it is so like this? Now I'll answer this question. It is default, where there has to be somewhere which we have mentioned. Yes, it is default mentioned that it starts from 8000. Why do we have increment of 10 numbers every time? Is imagine if something you have missed out in between, right? For example, assume there is something which you people have missed out between marking and survey or marking and excavation. Assume that I want to add an activity called as soil testing here, right? The moment I right click and then say add, you can see the number what it is getting is A1130, right? It's a ID. Every time it increments 10. So because my last activity was 1120, now it has become 1130, which is coming and staying here in this WBS because I have created it here. Now I want it in between marking and excavation. So what will I do? I'll make it as A1025. Now the moment I make it as 1025, and I'll have to refresh it, file or F5, usually it gets refreshed, and then it's taking some time. You will see that the activity will go in between, right? Still not there. That's right. I've done it. Okay, we'll schedule it. The moment when you schedule it, it will come. Basically, it should get connected. My server is low or something. It will do. Whenever we create a schedule of that, we'll see that time. So what it is for any activities which we have missed out in between. To add that, we have got this number A1021. I'll do it and see. 1 second. I'll schedule it so that it is easier right now. Or we can give 25 also. Anyway, is fine. I'll make it as soil testing. You can see this now. It has come and set in between marking and excavation, right? Earlier it was coming down, and now I have changed that. So you have got a 9 IDs or 9 what do you call activity ID, which you can add it in between if you have missed out. Now this is default. Now how did it come from? I'll show you that. When you click on this enterprise, go to the projects. This is a projects page where we created project, right? So I'll select the project which we created. So you can see this, the project is open, right? I'll select the project which we created, and in this you can see there's something called as defaults. Now in this defaults, you can see this auto numbering defaults, that is activity ID prefix, suffix and increment. So that's the reason why it is like this. But can I change this? Yes, I can change this to whatever I want. I can change it to the activity A, B, C, D. You can name the way you want it, your company's name, reference IDs, anything. The suffix, it starts from 1000 because it is default. You can start it from 100, you can start it from 10, or you can start it for 1. So whatever you want you can do. Increment, by default it is 10. You can change it to 100, you can change it to 1, you can change it to 5, how much ever you want. So it's all, you can do the changes. But remember, if you do not have any increments, if I keep it 1, no, if I remove this 10 and I make it 1, every time there's an increment of only 1. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, and if you want to if you want to insert anything in between tomorrow, any of the activities tomorrow, then it's not possible. You will have to delete those activities and then you have to create it again. Just like what I did, I inserted an activity called as soil testing in between marking and excavation. It was possible because I have given increment number of 10, and default in your activities in your software also the increment will be same. But if you would like to, if you want to change, you can change the prefix of an activity, suffix of an activity, and the increments also that you want, if you want. Alright, so this can be changed. Now there's one more thing which I would like to show. Just a second. There's one more thing which I would like to show. If further you want to change these prefix suffix which you already have given it, right? Now for anything which you want to create new, I showed you how to do it. But if already which has been created and you want to change it, so what you can do is either you can select all or how much ever activities you want, what and all. I'll select these activities and I'll right click on this, and you can see there's something called as renumber activity IDs, right? Here it is showing you the increment values, the prefix numbers, suffix numbers, whatever you want. So further to that, if you want to do any changes to this, you can do the changes. You can change these values. You can see this, I have made as B. Earlier it was A, now I have made as B. It's only to show you that, right? But usually what happens in our industry or in our PMCs, that each and every WBS will have a separate or a different activity IDs to it to recognize. If for the first floor, if it is F001, then for second floor it is S001. So that it's easy. When you call it as a column works, then I see an activity ID, it tells me that of which floors that column works we're talking about. because IDs are unique, activity names are same. You will have reinforcement shuttering everywhere, but what shuttering I'm talking about, which particular floor shuttering I'm talking about, that ID makes it unique. IDs cannot be same, right? So if you want to make IDs, and just by seeing an ID, if you want to know that okay, this activity is from this WBS and this is what I'm talking about, then for each and every WBS we will have to renumber it. So this is what we do usually in PMC. What we do, we select all the activities of that particular WBS and we renumber it to the things which we can remember. Basically we have to give the name of a WBS to the activities IDs also to remember this activity belongs from this particular WBS. So it becomes easier, you know. So this just I showed you because of a few basic things which you will have to know it when you start doing a planning. So changing the IDs, creating the IDs, incrementals and all, right? So anything you want to add, delete, you have this option. Right click, you'll see that a lot of things are there, right? Adding, deleting, copying, pasting and all, which I've already shown you. Alright, there are a few things which I still have to show you in this activities. Let me click on any of the activities, show you that. In a general, in detail window, in this detail window, you have this general option. In general option, there's an activity name. Further to that, if you still want to do any changes into the name and all, you can do it through the detail window. There's something called as activity type. Now what do you mean by this, and why do we have default as task dependent? Remember this, there are 6 different types of activity types, 1 2 3 4 5 6, right? And by default it is always a task dependent. Now what do you mean by task dependent? Activity task dependent means the start date of an activity and the end date of an activity is dependent on the dependency of an activity. For example, when I say clearing the survey activity has to start after finishing of clearing the ground, very common sense. So what will happen, the moment the activity clearing the ground finishes on 9th, the survey starts on 10th, correct? Now this is what if the clearing ground could not finish it on 9th? You understood? 8th and 9th is what we have scheduled clearing the ground. What if clearing ground activity will not get finished by 9th of July? It gets postponed to 10th or 12th of July. So what will happen to survey? Survey will also get delayed, right? So this is called as task dependent, because the task is dependent, the activity is dependent on some other task. Now there is something called as resource dependent also, right? You can see here in this there is an option called as resource dependent. I'm changing it to resource dependent. Now what do you mean by this resource dependent? Resource dependent means more the efforts, lesser the time, right? More the efforts means resources, of course. Assume 5 people can do it in 10 people can do it in 10 days and 20 people can do it in 5 days, isn't it? I'm doubling my resources so that the duration can be decreased. So this is called as resource dependent, where a resource calendar and the number of resources will decide what is a start date and end date of the resources, which when we are doing this resources part, I'll show you this how the resource dependent works. There's something called as start milestone and finish milestone. How many of you know what is milestone? Now it's a very general question, but still, milestone is something where a target which we want to reach. Now the basic question is, what we do when we reach a milestone? Usually people do what is milestone, right? What actually we do when we reach a milestone? Milestones is not a ultimate target of a project. No, milestones are a small targets. Like for example, my each and every WBS is a milestone. The moment I finish that particular WBS, then I have reached that milestone. Then again my new milestone starts at the next WBS. You understanding? For example, my earthwork itself is a milestone. The moment after I finishing my earthwork, my first milestone is reached or achieved. Then I'm urging to my second milestone. Then again my second milestone reaches, I go to the third milestone. But what do you do after reaching a milestone? That's the question. Why do we have a milestone? Is just to rejoice? Is just to celebrate what we have done? No. Why do we have a milestone is, the moment you reach a milestone, we will have to stop ourselves see that what we have done and what has to be done in the future. Actually, the milestones are not to understand that what we have done. Milestones are to verify the amount of work what we have done, or compare the amount of work which we have done to what it has to be, and then see the impact of the remaining. Give you a very small example, or a very common example to understand this. When we are traveling by roadside, we have this milestones, right? 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers, 200 kilometers. So what it shows about a destination. You are traveling towards Pune and it shows you there is a 300 kilometers still. What does that mean? That means I still have to travel 300 kilometers. But the milestone, what it shows, that you have reached so much, right? Because from a source it was 500 kilometers, you already crossed 200. Means you have reached 200. But your history is not important. What is important is how much time is left out. Now 300 kilometers, 500 kilometers, we have planned to reach it in 6 hours. Now after 2 hours we have reached only so much. Then what is the remaining amount of duration left out to travel? How much kilometers? That what we calculate. So milestones are very important. So we have start milestones and finish milestones. It's not ultimately a target of a completing whole project. It can be created at any point of time in your project. Start milestone and finish milestone. Now I'll create, if I have to create something as a start milestone here, I'll show you one. I'll create it here. You can see I'm creating an activity, and I'll set as A1035. You understood? I wanted it on the top, so I created a 1034 C35, and I'll make it as a milestone, and there is no zero duration, right? So there's no duration for a milestone. I'll change it here to a start milestone. The moment I make this as a milestone, you can see this in my graph. This is called a Gantt chart, right? In this Gantt chart you can see this diamond symbol coming in. There's few changes which I would like to do. I haven't seen this. Don't worry, I'll not gonna tell you anything about this right now, but there's few changes which I wanted to do in my software. So right, so this is how it is looking like now. Based upon the durations what we have given, these have been scheduled, and all the activities have been scheduled on the same day. That's okay. So this is a milestone what we have created. So milestone, remember, is an 0 days activity. It do not have any duration. It's only for you to recognize this is a milestone, this is where we are starting, and from this to this is that what you have to achieve. Alright, so you can create a start milestone, you can create a finish milestone, and if some point of time you will have to measure that what it was planned and what it has happened. So what we do usually, we measure it from a start milestone to a finish milestone, right? So like that we have start milestone, finish milestone. Quickly moving to the next, that is called as level of effort and WBS summary. Now this start milestone and finish milestone are for a specific work, right? I start my column works, it becomes a start milestone. I finish my column works, it becomes a finish milestone. But somewhere in between, not with respect to the work, with respect to the duration, with respect to the cost, I want to measure the efforts from any random activity. There is no specification in it. Any random activity. Say that activity ID number 8, we have this numbers here, right? From this 8 to 14, I want to measure the level of efforts, means number of resources, the number of work hours. Then I can create an activity called as level of effort in between, and then I can do that, which I'll be showing you that in monitoring and controlling when we come later on after the planning or in the execution. And then we have something called as WBS summary. WBS summary is for summarizing the WBSs. Here what it is showing you, for example, now when I show this earthwork here, this earthwork, it is showing me 12 days currently. Why 12 days? Based upon what? Based upon the durations what we have assigned, and the moment we give the relationships here, it will summarize all these activities and give you the summary here. So this is called as summarization, right? It will summarize all these durations here and it will show you here. The moment if I want to know the earthwork, structural work put together, how much it is in terms of duration, in terms of cost, in terms of start date, end date, anything which you want to summarize, then I'll create a separate activity called as WBS summary to summarize multiple WBS. Understood? We'll do it and see so that you people will understand, but right now it's very difficult. I'm just showing you what other things are there and trying to explain you, right? Then there is something called as duration type, percentage complete. Duration type is by default fixed duration units, and duration percentage is duration by default. This again we will understand when we are using this. Activity calendar, by default it is taking the project calendar, right? So you remember, right? So we have created a project calendar called as my project, and then we have assigned to it. So by default all our activities are taking the calendar which we have assigned. If you remember, we have created a 6 days of calendar, right? So it's, you can see only Sunday is holiday here, rest all other days are working. And right, which WBS it is, responsible manager, any resources if we have assigned. Then we have this status. You can see what is the durations of this activity, how many days this activity is going to be, actual days if execution is happened, then remaining how many days still, at completion how many days. So it will tell you about all these things, start date, end date and all. Then we have predecessor, successor and also and so forth, which we'll see it into later. Now I was telling you that there's one option in Primavera which any other software do not have, that is a breakdown of an activity. Now I want to have a breakdown of this excavation. Now this further breakdown of an excavation is known as steps. You can see in this detail window I have an option called as steps. Now some of you, when you open your software, you might not see the number of options what I have this here in your software. It's only because what you have to do is right click on this. Before you people ask me this question, I'm very sure that you will not have all these options in your detail window. If you are not finding all these options in your detail window, don't worry. Right click on this detail window. You will have an option called as customize activity details. Customize activity details. The moment you click on this, there are few things which are on this side. I'll show you. It will be like this. There are few things which are on this side, which you will have to bring it on this side. Display tabs, available tabs. So in available tabs you will be able to find it, but you are not chosen it to your display tab. So you will have to bring it this side. You will have to select here and you have to bring it this side. The moment you push it this side, you drag it this side, you can see that everything has come into a display table, so that you will be able to see that into your display. Right. So now you will have all these things. In that there's a one option called as steps. Now if I want to break down my excavation into steps, you can see here is an option called as add. This is your steps created, the steps where you create, and this is where the description of that. For example, when I click on this, you can see the new step have come. Now excavate soft soil of 3 meter to 3 meter. Now this is a step, the first step, and then what, and then what, and then what. There are how many steps to excavating it. And further to that, if you want to add any of the descriptions to this, there's an option called as modify here, right? The moment you click on this modify, it's just a notepad. You can start typing the notes how much ever you want. You can type what it is, how much you're excavating, how you are doing it. If you want to add any of the notes or the descriptions to that, you can add it here, and you can add as much as steps you want. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to do that. So how many steps are there and all, you can add it, so that tomorrow when you're executing this particular activities, it becomes easy for you to say that this particular step on this activity is completed. Okay, we have already completed your removing the soft soil, and then we started with the hard soil, and then with the rock, and then with the hard rock, so on and so forth. So you can say that how much the work has been done. That becomes easy. So this is called as multi-level planning. You can call it as detailed planning of an activities, but it's too much. If you want, you can do, or else you can just say that excavation is excavation. Everything is excavation. Soft soil is also excavation. Hard rock is also excavation. So if you do not want to show that separately, you can say that only excavation and get all the quantities. Anyway, your quantity surveyor have planned it, and then you will get into an Excel sheet that how the excavation has to be done and all, and the quantities of that. But if you have a detail, then it becomes easy for you to assigning the resources, assigning the cost to it. Because if you do not have details about excavation completely in detail, then it becomes difficult for you to assign resource and cost later on. So it's always suggested to plan detailedly, but again, totally depending on the company to company that how they want to see it. Usually, let me tell you one more thing. In as we are into still planning, who is doing this plan? Whatever we are doing, who is doing it? Is this a contractor doing it? Is a client who is doing it? Who is a PMC doing it? Who is doing this? Who is creating these activities? Who is telling you that how much durations it has to be? Now when I say a planning engineer, who is this planning engineer? Now there is a planning engineer in a contractor side also. There is a planning engineer in PMC also. What PMC will do? PMC is always a company which is in between my contractor and a client. Is a third party. Now client will never trust a contractor. Client will never trust a contractor, right? Why? Because we never know what contractor is using, what soil, what concrete he uses, or what actually the quantity is putting, or does it really needs reinforcement? When I say it requires 4 days, does it really requires 4 days? So client is not a civil engineer to understand all this stuff. Now whatever contractor says, a client has to say yes. So for that, what actually he'll appoint a PMC, that is a project management consulting company. So what they'll do, they will estimate with respect to the client, and it has been appointed by a client. So he's a client's person basically. PMC is a client's person. So PMC will plan it with respect to the requirement of a client. Now client wants this project to be finished in 18 months only. Then your PMC will decide that this particular activity has to be completed in how many days. So for that, what you have to do, how many resources have to be used, or what technology you have to use, and how do you do it. So that PMC will plan and give it to the contractor. Now when you tell the contractor that excavation, this is what an excavation has to be started on this particular date and finished to be on this particular date. Now as a contractor, I do not want to know, or I do not want to listen it from a PMC or from a client that how an excavation to be done, or I do not want to know as a contractor that how the reinforcement have to be done, right? So anybody, as a company, you do not want to tell me, how to do this. So that's how it comes. So what a contractor says, you let me know when the excavation work have to be completed, because the costing is also matters. No, cash flow. If you people know, there is something called as cash flow. So where a client has to arrange for the money, right? Cash flow. So where the PMC will tell that so much of the work is completed with an approval, signature, seal and all, which goes to the client. Then client approves that work and then give a money to a contractor. Again, the contractor invests so much of money. So the cash flow is very important. So for this understanding about the cash flow, or to ensure to maintain that cash flow, what we do not want to tell him that what all the things have to be done. We tell him only the excavation has to be started here and has to be finished here, and then after that I'll approve for the new money. Again you will start the next work. Again after completion of that work, I'll approve for the next amount of money. Again you will do the next work. So this is how it happens, right? So a PMC will plan this. So that's the reason why we do not want these steps to be there. But as a contractor, if somebody wants to create steps for themselves, just to have a reference that how much the work have completed and how much still have to be done, or what all the things have to be done in this particular activity, they can create steps, right? So that is the few things which I wanted to tell you. There's something called as expenses here, which we will see this later again. There's something feedbacks, codes, discussion with your resources and all remotely if you want to do, as it is an ERP software and it's an online software, you can use it as an online. Alright, so excuse me. So these are the few things about activities, very importantly. Next is, the moment you create an activity, have you studied something called as critical path method? Yes, no. I will go back to the chart. If you can just type yes, no. Have you studied something about critical path method? No. No. So okay, so nobody have learnt it. Longest path, yes, that what I told you, but you people haven't studied, right? Probably you will be studying it in this semester in your college. It's a part of a syllabus. That's the reason why I asked you. Somebody who is into a 8th semester must have studied it. Anybody who is attending here who is from 8th semester? No, no one. All of them are from 6th semester. Is it so? Yeah. All right. Yes, Nikhil. But Nikhil, okay, Nikhil Gowda, you told no. You are from 8th semester, but you have not learnt it. Is it? Okay. All right. I don't know why, but it is a part of the syllabus usually. There's something called as I have completed my masters in construction management. Okay, yeah. So somebody who have completed MS, of course, yes, they know what is actually a critical path method and all. But somebody who haven't, who did not, yeah, I mean 6 so you said yes also for that. Okay. Anyway, somebody who have not learned critical path method, I'll try to teach you the critical path method also. Somebody have learned it, might be a repetition for you because it's one of the most important thing to know. But before that, let me show you something in the software. Alright, I can show you a few things in the software. That is, we call it as dependencies. There is something called as dependency. There are 4 types of dependencies in any software. It's not a software, actually it's a concept, but the dependencies have to be created in the software for the giving a relationship. So I said it as software. There are 4 types of dependencies. Dependencies for what? Dependencies for an activity. Now what are these 4 dependencies? Dependencies are, the first one is, it is called as mandatory dependency. Mandatory dependency. Second one is called as discretionary dependency, where is it is a discretion for everything. So discretionary dependency. Third is called as it also called as an internal dependency, and the fourth one is known as external dependency. Right, we have 4. So the first one is called as mandatory dependency. Now what is mandatory dependency? Mandatory dependency means there is a mandatory that this particular activity has to start after only completion of that activity. Means what? I can do survey only after completion of clearing my ground activity. I can do marking only when the survey is done. I can do excavation only after the marking is completed. Isn't it? I can do my PCC work only when my excavation is complete. I can do PCC only when my excavation is completed. It's a mandatory. Can I do PCC first and then I can excavate? No, you cannot do that. Can I say that I'll do survey and then I'll do a clearing of the ground? It's very difficult. You cannot do that. So there's a mandatory dependencies. There's a relationship where you will have to do it in a similar way. I have to complete my reinforcement activity, then only I will be able to do a shuttering. Only after completion of the shuttering I can do concreting. This is called as dependency. Hard dependency. It's called as mandatory dependency or hard logic dependency. Right? This second type, what I mentioned, is discretionary dependency or discretion. There's a discretionary dependency. It is also known as soft logic dependency. Now what do you mean by the soft logic dependency? The dependency is not there, but we are putting some discretion to create a dependency. Right? There is no relationship at all between 2 activities, but I want to create a relationship there. There are n number of reasons are there, which I would like to give you an example to tell you. Say there is an activity called as electrical and plumbing. Very best example to understand. Both of them are independent activities, isn't it? Both of them are independent activities. I can finish my electrical work and then I start my plumbing work. But what I'll do in this planning, I'll start my electrical work and plumbing work start. Means both the activities I want to start simultaneously. On the day when my electrical work starts, same day I want to start my plumbing work also. It's a mandatory. I'm creating a dependency. It was not early. It was not mandatory that both the activities have to be started simultaneously. No, but I'm creating a dependency. I'm telling that both the activities has to be started on a same date. You're creating a dependency called as start to start relationship will come in later. This is called as dependency. This is called a discretion dependency. So where we are creating a dependency which was not there, or when you're constructing a multi-storied building, basically, say that I am doing a the work of the structural work is going on the sixth floor and the block work is going on the second floor, and I want this to happen a similar way. Whenever my second floor's block work starts, I also want my sixth floor's RCC column works to be started. Mandatory. Is there any dependency between them? Is there any dependency between my block work and the column work? The answer is no. The second floor's all RCC work, structural work is completed. I'm starting with my block works, but I also want to ensure that whenever I'm doing my second floor's block work, I want to start my sixth floor's RCC work also, structural work also. So when I do it in similar way, I'll reach my terrace. The moment I reach my terrace, my structural and block work both will be completed simultaneously. This is what my intention was. Probably cash flow is another intention. If you see the bigger buildings in any of the cities, the structural work will be completely finished, and then the block work person will come and then he'll start doing the block work. The reason is very simple, because today we are not giving it to the same contractor. Here in the tier 2 cities it is yes, but in tier 1 cities and all, in the bigger cities, metro cities and all, you will not find a single contractor doing all the work. Usually what we do, if for example, if you must have heard of a company called as Simplex. Simplex is very good at, or very famous at, doing only structural work. They will not do block works at all. If you give them money also, they will not do it. They don't want to do that. They do only structural work. So they will construct only the structure and they will move out of your project. So there is a company called as Vaishnavi Constructions. If you must have heard, Vaishnavi Constructions are good at block works. If you give them a work of structural, they will not do it. They will do only block work. So I have two contractors. Now I have one contractor for structural, one contractor for block work. So what I'll do, I want to schedule it in a way where my structural contractors work and my Vaishnavi Constructions, there's a block work who is doing it, ensure that both of them are there simultaneously doing this works till the end. But I do not want it to happen, because you know that, right? Structural work takes a lot of time, when the block works take lesser time. So I want to ensure that both of them get out of this project at a similar time. So there's a lot of things into it. There's a cash flow, there's an end date, because end date is also important, right? There's something called as constraint. Your project have to be completed at this particular time only. So you want to start lot many works parallelly. You want to start lot of activities parallelly, where the dependency is not there, but you still want to create it. That is called as discretionary dependency. There's something called as internal dependency. Internal dependency is because of it could be a positive, it could be negative. Basically, lot many times when we take an example, negative examples comes lot many times. It can be a positive also. Means, for example, I wanted to do an activity tomorrow, but there is no resources available. So it's an internal problem. So because of that, there's some other activity to be done now, because there's a lack of resource. So there's some other activity to be done. So the relationship changes, the dependency changes. That is called as internal dependency. External dependency is which is not under our control, right? Which is not under our control. That is basically your rainy seasons, or this pandemic what has happened, or this is something which is not under our control. So that also leads to the change in the dependencies. That is called as external dependency. So these four dependency leads to four types of relationships. We call it as precedence diagram method. I'll show you this more into diagrams and all, but just to tell you that there's something called as precedence diagram method. Precedence diagram method has four types of relationships. I'll repeat. Precedence diagram method has four types of relationships. Now what is four type of relationship? The first type of relationship called as finish to start, which I explained you. There's a mandated dependency where one activity has to finish to start the other. Only when always remember this relationship, okay? There's a relationship between activities. What is the relation? either activity will have one predecessor, that is a one relation, the other relation of an activity is successor. So every activity will have either a predecessor or it will have both. It can have both. An activity will have a predecessor, an activity will also have a successor. So the previous activity is called as predecessor, the next activity is called as successor, right? So the previous activity, that is called as predecessor. Only after finishing the predecessor, the successor activity have to start. That is called as finish to start, right? Activity A finishes and then activity B starts. Finish to start. There is something called as start to start, which I gave an example of electrical and plumbing. Both the activities have to start simultaneously. So what I will do, it is called as start to start relationship. I will say the moment an activity A starts, the activity B also have to be started on a same day. The third type of relationship is called as finish to start. Sorry, finish to finish. Finish to start to start, finish to finish. Very simple, guys. It's a permutation and the combination of start and finish. So all the possible things you can do: start to finish to start to start, finish to finish, start to finish. Finish to finish is two activities have to be finished simultaneously, no matter when they are starting. I'm not bothered about their start date, but I'm bothered about the finish date. Again, the same example if I have to take and explain you, rather than making electrical and plumbing activities start to start, I'll make them as finish to finish. You know why? Because there's a third activity waiting for them. What is that? Plastering. I want my electrical work and plumbing work to be finished on a same date. Probably I'll start my plumbing work a couple of days early and then I'll start my electrical work, but I want to finish my electrical and plumbing on a same date. If my electrical and plumbing finishes on 10th of July, so that 11th of July I can start my plastering work. What will happen if one activity delays? My plastering work will delay. I cannot do plastering until unless my electrical and plumbing activities are completed. So electrical and plumbing, rather than making it a start to start relationship, I will make it as finish to finish relationship. So that's another relationship. The last one is called as start to finish. Don't get confused between finish to start and start to finish. It's totally opposite. Finish to start is you are finishing one activity and starting the other, but in start to finish is you are starting the activity first to finish your predecessor later. Until and unless you start your successor, you cannot finish your predecessor. Making it sense? You understanding? Little confusion here. Finish to start is you are finishing your activity A, then you are starting activity B. It's very simple, right? You are finishing one and starting next. That is finish to start. Here what is happening? Your B activity has to be started to finish your activity A. If your B is not started, then activity A will not finish. I'll try to give you an example. This is the only example which I feel usually which makes sense in our construction industry. But if you have something, you also can let me know. Say we have something called as slab work, right? So slab concreting, or you can call anything, I'll just call it as a slab. Now there is an activity called as slab, and then there is an activity called as waterproofing. So what? Slab is my predecessor, and then after the slab is constructed, and then my activity waterproofing will start. But I would say it in another way. I will not consider my activity slab is completed until and unless waterproofing activity starts. You are understanding? Activity predecessor is slab, successor is waterproofing. Until and unless my successor activity, that is waterproofing, is starting, I will not consider my slab activity, that is predecessor, as finished. So successor has to start to finish the predecessor. That is my start to finish relationship. That these all activities, relationships and all, we'll see it here. Alright. So quickly I'll show you how to create these relationships. Right. I'll show you how to create this relationship. Now you can see here, I'll click on an activity called as survey. That's my second activity. So I just want to give a relationship. I want to relate between survey and clearing ground. Now in this detail window, you can see there is something called as predecessor, right? This is a predecessor. We also have successor. Here it is. So I'll go to this predecessor and I'll say assign. The moment I click on this assign, it is asking me what do you want, which particular activity as a predecessor. Now for the survey, I'll click on this clearing ground and I'll say assign. You can see here for clearing ground, for survey, you can see clearing ground is a successor. I'll click on marking and I'll say survey is my predecessor. I'll select assign. I'll click on this soil testing and I'll make this marking as an predecessor. I'll click on excavation. Soil testing is my predecessor. In fact, I can have multiple predecessor also. Excuse me. I'll say the soil testing and also marking. You can see here there's already one predecessor called as soil testing. I'll select on marking and then I'll say assign. Here I'll click on marking and then I'll say assign. You can see now I have two predecessors. I have soil testing and also have marking. So you can see it here, things have changed. My duration has changed. In fact, I did not give a proper durations here. I'll try to do that. I'll say marking is a day activity, soil testing anyway it is only a day activity, but it will take 8 days or 4 days, 6 days, based upon where the geotechnical reports have to come from and all those stuff. And excavation, whatever the quantity. So now based upon that, it is telling me that it's 21 days activity. So when it is starting, when it is finishing, this excavation, whole excavation put together of all earthworks I'm talking about. Now earthwork starts on 8th of July and finishes on 28th of July. It is starting at morning 9 a.m. and it is telling me that it will finish it on 6 p.m. of 28th July. This is an accuracy. If you can sit and work out with an estimation to understand that how many resources are required to do this work and in how much time we can do, we can exactly estimate and tell that when an activity will start and when this activity will get finished. Great, no? It will tell you exactly that how many days it is required to finish this work. It becomes easier for you to monitor tomorrow when the execution work starts. If this activity is not finishing on time, what will happen? Assume this clearing ground which we have planned to finish it on 9th of July, it is not finishing on 9th of July. What will happen? All the activities, survey, marking, excavation, everything, soil testing, everything will get delayed. Isn't it? Yes or no? So in that way, relationships makes a lot of sense. Now here you can see the moment when you give a predecessors, you can see in this predecessors column there is something called as relations or relationship type. Now this relationship type, it is FS. FS means finish to start. F is finish, S is start. When you pop down this here, you can see you will get finish to finish, finish to start, start to finish, start to start. There are lots of options available. Lots of means there's only 4 of course, but as I mentioned you, either it is a finish to start, start to start, start to finish, or finish to finish. Now if I want to make it as start to start, so that the moment the clearing of the ground happens or whenever I'm doing a marking, simultaneously the soil has also been collected and sent to a soil testing. So what I'll do, marking and soil testing, I'll make it a start to start activity. You can see here I'm changing the relationship to finish to start to start to start. You can see it in the graph. It is both of them starting simultaneously. Did you see this? If you see it here, 11th July, 9 a.m., 9 a.m. You can see this. You can change the relationship. You can change if you want to make it as a finish to finish, start to start, because it was not mandatory to finish my marking and then start soil testing, so I started it simultaneously.
In fact, I can start soil testing from the day when I am doing a survey also, isn't it? I'll change my relationship. I'll if I want to assign, or I can assign one more also, or else I can remove this. You have an option called as remove. I'll say yes, remove it. The moment I removed it, you can see the relationship has broke down here. I'll go to the assign. I'll say survey, and I'll click on assign. The moment I assign, it takes by default finish to start. Now I'll change it to start again. You can see here it is start to start. Earlier it was showing me some 23 days and something. Because of this changes what I've done, it becomes 19 days. I have reduced it the time. I have saved time because I've soil testing. I send it earlier so that I save time. So this is how you can do that. So you can create all these activities, and then you can assign the relationships. You assign whatever the relationships you want. Whatever in the sense, of course there has to be some dependencies, but you can give the way it is to be created. You will have to have a proper sense of work into it. You will have to know, you will have to understand what has to happen first, and then what, and then what, and then what. There's always this waterfall module in our construction. There is two types of project management consultancies, or the things, or what you call it as a standard. There's something called as a waterfall module, and there's something called as agile. Now agile is something where there's an incremental, or you can call it as an you just have to plan for tomorrow. You cannot plan it for the whole year. But in our civil industry, in our construction, it does not happen in that. You will have to plan the whole project from the start to the finish. It could be a 2 years project, 3 years project, or 20 years project. But in IT projects, or something which is of 2 months, 15 days, 20 days, you cannot you need not plan the whole project. Actually, you just have to plan tomorrow, sit with the client, take the bugs, again plan it for day after tomorrow. So it's an iterative plan. That's called as agile, but does not happen in a similar way in construction industry. So it's called as waterfall module. Alright, so this is all about creating an activities, relationships, dependencies. We saw different types of relationships, and most importantly, you will have to know how it is to be estimated. When I say clearing the ground, it takes 2 days. Why it takes 2 days? When survey, how many days? Earthwork, excavation, why 12 days? How did I estimate to ensure that it has become 12 days? That is very important actually. What we are learning today, that I cannot teach you, of course, months of time or something, that is a very big process to make you understand, because there are a lot of things involved. We'll have to go to the site, we'll have to understand that what type of machines we have, how it has been calculated, how much to be excavated. Again, when we get a geotechnical reports and the foundation drawing is being prepared, then we'll understand that how much excavation to be done. Now before understanding how much excavation to be done, we'll have to understand what is there inside the soil, isn't it? So how much the crust is there. So based upon that, we'll have to consider. There's a lot of things which we'll have to consider. There's something called as productivity sheet, which probably some period of time I'll show you that also. There's something called as productivity sheet, where we will have to understand how much resource, or what resource will do how much amount of work in how much tools if we provide them and all, or what is an area. Like for example, mason, if I'm talking about a mason doing in say about 200 square meter of the work, then maximum how many masons can work on that 200 square meter? You cannot put 100 people onto that work, no? So what is the maximum amount of people can work on how much amount of work? All these things are something which we'll have to understand, and then we start planning it. But as in fresher, nobody gonna expect all these things from you people. So what any company will have an expectation is that very good in you should be very good at the software. Well, there are lots of people who are there having experience of all these things will drop, or put all those particular things to you, and you will have to prepare that into Primavera and have to create these projects. So that's where a junior planning engineer will be. A junior planning engineer will not plan anything on himself. He'll take a suggestions from all this experience from a planning engineer, and he'll create all this activities, relationships and all based upon the estimations what has been provided from a senior planning engineer. Okay, all right. 5 minutes to this completion of an this thing. You have any questions to be asked?